Hip hop, it's the beat that the world moves to, next on Carpe Diem. Hello from Montclair State University. I'm Mark Efron. I teach journalism and digital media in the School of Communication and Media. Today we will be speaking about hip hop and its impact. Hip hop has gone from just a genre of music to one that has withstood the test of time and now defines a whole generation. Kevin Milton takes a look at its history and its impact.
The origin of hip-hop started in the 1970s in South Bronx, New York, under the founding fathers, DJ Kool Herc used turntables and speakers to create hip-hop at a house party.
The story of hip-hop and the art as a whole is a uniquely American story. It's a uniquely American art form.
How has hip-hop influenced me in a major way? Like, this is what I want to do as a career. I want to be as a producer. So if I'm spending 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day doing music, you know, it influences me, everything, how I think. You know, when I'm walking in the streets, if I hear a certain sound, I'm like, wow, I could probably turn that into something.
Duff once said in a song, hip-hop is a representation of whatever is going on in the hood, or whatever the state of what's going on in the hood is. So if the hood is good, hip-hop is gonna be good. If the hood is messed up and things are going wrong in the world, hip-hop is gonna be messed up in the world.
Now a lot of kids look up to these rappers. And, you know, and to be realistic, a lot of the songs that are playing right now, not all of them are saying some of the bestest messages. So a lot of kids get influenced in a negative way. But in the other side, there's a lot of rappers and artists and singers that kids look up to that are talking about the right message and actually talking to them about, you know, handling their business. And I think that inspires people to actually do it because they're hearing it and their songs are like, well, this guy is a wealthy person and he's doing this, this, and that. Maybe I should take his advice.
Afro-tech. Generational wealth, that's the key. My parents ain't had so that shift started with me. My mom took up money, she bought me bonds. That was the sweetest thing of all time.
Oh man, the beat is everything. If you really think about it, music is everything. Like, think about it. How many people would actually show up to an event if there was just somebody just singing, no beat? Very rare. But then again, you look at EDC and you look at all that. Usually there's no lyrics. It's just beat, and it'd be packed with thousands of people. So that just says a lot right there. How the beat actually, you know, how powerful that is.
I think, you know, lyrically, first of all, lyrics aside, I think the first thing that you notice when you listen to a hip hop song is the beat, it's rhythm. And you're like, okay, this sounds really cool. And I remember listening to Unbelievable off Ready to Die, which was produced by DJ Premier. And anyone familiar with that song knows it's a banger. Like, it's really awesome. Like, you listen to that with headphones, just the instrumental, and you're like, what is this?
I think it's just very interesting to see all these different people and all their different perspectives and see how much they all relate to each other and how much also us as people can relate to all these other people.
They say hip-hop influenced a generation and touched the people in more ways than one.
I hope you dedicated. I hope you wake up early in the morning motivated. I hope you know your potential, your strength, your limitations. I hope you break every box that they try to put your faith. Don't keep making the same mistakes.
Lil Hope was something that I made over time. I didn't make it in one day. I actually took the chorus of the song from another song that I had previously done, like a freestyle. And we kind of ran with that. It kind of just fit, and I kind of kept reciting it over and over. And next, you know, that was just the hook, and I kind of built off that. And it's just basically like a song with a message of motivation. And, you know, not so much just like me trying to give you hope, but more like trying to make you give yourself hope, you know, and it's kind of reminding you what you are and the things that you're going through. And It's not like that. The substance isn't that crazy, but it's kind of like just the overall message. Like, I want you to hear the song and feel motivated, feel inspired. I feel like there's not really like any obstacle to your day.
It's gonna grow. It's gonna grow, and it's gonna change, and it's gonna probably piss people off, and it's probably gonna inspire others. I mean, that's what art does. It's constant. It's like a beast, or it's an animal. It's a living, breathing being, and it's constantly going to grow, evolve, and change. I can't see hip hop ending. I can't see hip hop dying. And even if it were to become so different, I think the ethos, the revolutionary ethos of what hip hop is, will always remain there.
As Rose said, hip hop is here to stay. Really fascinating and a great setup piece. So we have two guests now. We're joined by two guests who live in the world of hip hop. Greg Rossetti teaches rap and rock here at Montclair State. He gets over 100 students for his lecture class. He has several commercially released albums and is currently writing for some upcoming video games. We'll talk to him about that. We'll see if there's a hip hop track to it. And Mike Ritchie joins us. He's an audio engineer in New York, currently working out of his 2 studios. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start with you, Greg.
Sure.
So for those folks who are watching who may be on the wrong side of the age divide, give us a quick history of hip hop.
Okay, quickly, today's hip hop is very different than when it first started. In the 70s, hip hop was a response by African American, Latino youth in the Bronx to what was popular at the time. What was popular at the time? Disco. The glam and the glitz of disco. That did not speak to them. They needed an outlet to express themselves. So it originally was a performance art. It wasn't necessarily recorded. Right now, everything's about recording and releasing albums on, well, CDs or now iTunes, Spotify, and so on. Originally, it was a performance. You'd go to a party, and DJ Kool Herc, who's one of the pioneers, would have the 2 turntables of like James Brown records and other funk records. And he would take the instrumental part of the loop, of the beat, and repeat it, and take another record and mix and match them, and make this thing on the spot, a new form of music using samples from other music. And then people, it was a culture, they danced to it. Breakdancing was a big part of it. The African Bambaataa is another pioneer at the same time. He said hip hop was this culture based on breakdancing, DJing, graffiti art, and then MCing was the idea of rapping. Rapping came later. Right now we associate rap as hip hop. Rap is a hip hop trope. Rapping came a little bit later. It was originally just about the beat and making this kind of party. So it was a culture first in a way, and became this idea of a consumer package as in the years to come. So basically that's the 70s, and it's changed obviously in the 80s once you started getting more gangster rap and everything, when they're trying to expose troubles, and then all the political conundrums that were problems with that because of the police responding and all of that. But originally hip hop was an outlet for impoverished youth, mostly minority youth in the Northeast where we are now, to have an expression and have be able to express themselves through music.
So let me ask you, Mike, based on what Greg said. So here we are in 2017, and like all forms of music, it generally starts with black music.
Right.
Whether it's we're talking about jazz, we're talking about rock and roll, which started with R&B. So how does it go from this very particular form of music in the Bronx, where I was born, and how does it now become this multi-billion-dollar, multi-ethnic, business? How does it go from one to the other? And how do you fit into that?
Okay. Well, first, the outreach of hip hop, I feel like, has to do a lot with what hip hop is about. Like he said, it had to do with a lot of like their actual situations that they were dealing with growing up and all the stuff that they dealt with on a daily basis. So people resonated with that information, and because it resonated, it got through the streets, and then obviously now through the internet age, it just spreads like wildfire because the internet. And if people, like, the more people that resonate with it, obviously the more outreach it's gonna have.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that disco has been dead forever now, but hip hop, which emerged as you said, Greg, as a response to the excesses and the always not very good music of disco. Sure. Hip hop is still here and stronger, right? What gets lost? And we'll start with Greg, and then I want to ask Mike. What gets lost when music goes from this very indigenous, ethnic, it starts somewhere. It's very particular. It's very specific. It talks to a particular audience, and now all of a sudden you hear it on soundtracks and movies. Like, what gets lost?
It's a great question, because the integrity of it, and people miss the message. Consume all music. I can say, I'm not going to pick on hip hop. This is true with rock music and everything. It's a product. It is now a product. A lot of musicians, not all of them, do this to make money. They're like, I want to have my album out there nowadays, like a digital world. I want to be on iTunes. I want to sell out these Madison Square Garden concerts. And they forget about the message behind the music. They do what people will buy. It's just like owning a computer company, Apple computers. This is trendy. People are going to buy this product. They like the logo. Let's market it as a product. Originally, it was expression. It was a lot more art involved, and this is true with rock and roll. Look at the pioneers of rock and roll, like Chuck Berry, passed away earlier this year.
Right.
Obviously, black artist, and this was black music, like you were saying, this indigenous small sect that appealed to certain people. But other people saw that and said, I want to do that too.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's popular. People are buying this. I can make some money. So it loses kind of its integrity and it becomes less of an art and more of a product. That said, it exposes this to more people. So something is lost, but something is gained. More people are exposed to this music. And hip hop, it can be an outlet for people that weren't originally. I mean, I grew up in the white suburbs of New Jersey, Hunterdon County, New Jersey. And
doesn't get whiter than that.
Doesn't get whiter than that, exactly.
Right.
One of the reddest parts of the New Jersey. But the people there loved hip hop music because it was a response to their upbringing also.
Yeah.
They're growing up in these McMansions, and the dads have these 9-to-5, white-collar jobs. They didn't want to listen to Led Zeppelin and the Beatles. They wanted to do something that rebelled against their parents. So they were taking from it, appropriating in a way from another culture, something that they did not grow up with. They'll listen to NWA. Their lifestyle couldn't be any further from NWA, but they feel a connection because they have this sense of rebelling, and that it's cool, that this is different. Let's listen to something we're not supposed to listen to.
So, Mike, you're a kid from Queens, right?
Yes, sir.
So how did you get into rap, into hip hop?
So it's funny.
Am I right or wrong in using those two terms
Well,
interchangeably?
I mean, you might have a different opinion.
Yeah, so
but-
I feel like hip hop and rap are two separate
Okay,
things.
good. So do that first, and
yeah.
then I'll get into how you got into it.
So hip hop, I feel like, is more like Greg was saying, is a culture thing, where it's about the breakdancing, the graffiti, the actual art of it. Where rap is just a piece of hip hop.
It's
It's just
it
rap.
can be appropriated into rock, like Rage Against the Machine is a rock band with a rapper. So
Exactly.
that's the thing. That's why I think my course should be changed the title to Hip Hop in Rock as Cultural Phenomena. But that's an aside, because they are separate. Yeah.
So let's talk about it. You're a kid growing up in Queens.
Yep.
What's the what makes you say this is what I'm going to do? I'm not going to be a lawyer or a doctor. I'm not going to sell insurance, right? I don't know. What did your parents want you to do?
So, well, my parents always pushed me to do what I wanted to do.
Great.
Which was
Good
always
parents.
great. Yeah.
God, I love it.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate to get to try out a lot of different career paths. Hip hop and music is just what I resonated towards the most and something I enjoyed the most. But what got me into hip hop was actually my father. My father, he listened to a lot of hip hop, and in elementary school, actually, I was already listening to like Dr. Dre, NWA, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, those kinds of guys. And then from there, I just ventured off and started finding my own artists that I like to listen to. And the more I dove into hip hop, the more I found. And because I had to catch up on hip hop, I was constantly going back and then also getting influenced by new music that was coming out. So I got both sides of hip hop, not so much just the old school hip hop, but also the new school hip hop.
Now, what's interesting is that based on what Greg was saying, you should have rebelled because your old man was listening to hip hop.
Right.
You should have said, I'm going to go back to Led Zeppelin, right? But somehow it spoke to both your dad and to you.
Yeah, and it's funny too because when I first got exposed to hip hop, it wasn't something that I listened to all day, every day. It was just something that like I said, my father played, and I would listen to it here and there.
What else did you listen to?
I still listen to a lot of different genres, like alternative, rock and roll, jazz,
Don't tell me
blues.
easy listening, or we're going to make you leave.
Actually, I do.
No, really?
Yeah, I like jazz, and I like smooth,
jazz.
yeah, stuff like that.
Kenny G. And
Kenny G,
oh,
exactly.
So then when did you say that, okay, this is where now I'm going to go and pursue my career. I'm going to become an engineer.
So after high school, like I said, during high school, I got to try out a lot of different career paths, and I got to try out everything from architecture to accounting to police force and stuff like that.
So what?
And criminal justice.
These are courses you took?
Yeah, so my high school offered courses.
Oh, great.
And I
Okay.
got to, like I said, I tried all these different career paths, but nothing really stuck with me. Like, they were enjoyable and it was cool while it lasted, but it wasn't anything that, like, I could see myself doing for 40 plus years. And music always resonated with me. I just never knew how I could get into music and what would be my foot in the door. So then after high school, I took the first semester off before going to college. And I was just looking for something that I wanted to do while just getting into the working world. And I found the school that I ended up going to, which is the Institute of Audio Research in Manhattan. And I went on the tour of the school, and during the tour they had a studio session going on that we got to sit in on. And sitting in that room and watching like the band work and watching the engineers work with the band and all that, it just like, it gave me goosebumps. And I was just like, from that moment on, I was like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life.
So what do you do now? So tell us about your life as an audio hip hop engineer. What do you do?
I'm in the studio a lot, honestly. I mainly just record artists and mix their music. That's what I enjoy doing, just recording and mixing part.
So you have a reputation. Artists will know. Let's go to Richie over here because he's going to do a great job in mixing our stuff.
I like
Right,
to think
Mike?
so. I like to think so.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I said, I enjoy the more studio aspect of things, but there's a lot of different territories you could be in when you're an engineer. You could do live sound, you could do studio aspects, you can even do mastering, which is a whole separate process in itself from recording and mixing.
So how many people like Mike are there in the country in this kind of hip hop ecosystem? Are there thousands of folks? You know,
Everyone, a lot of people want to be engineers. Like I do engineering also.
Right.
And I was telling him earlier, like I kind of shifted gears just because of life changes, and but a lot of people do it themselves. It depends on the demographics of the area. I was talking again about Hunterdon County, New Jersey. Everyone they get their Apple computer. They have GarageBand on it. Then everyone thinks they're an engineer. It's preaching to the choir to say there's more than having equipment to being an engineer.
Exactly.
and plus
ears.
equipment is no longer like $50,000
Exactly,
worth of
right?
equipment.
You buy a
so
computer.
the price, the barrier
Yes.
of admission is way
Way low.
less.
Exactly.
Right?
And people forget that it's not the equipment that makes you an engineer. You have to work on your ear training. You have to understand how to use the equipment properly. You have to understand what makes a record good and what a good mix is.
How sounds work together.
How sounds work together,
also,
right? Physics. You have to know a little bit of physics and frequencies and confliction of frequencies and all of that. So there's a lot involved, and a lot of people do want to pursue the path of engineering. I love that idea of making a project also. Just, I perform music as well, but I preferred the idea of having a project. People coming into the studio and you try to make it a product. You're taking what you're given, these ingredients of these musicians or rappers, and you want to make it a product somehow. So that's pretty common that people want to pursue this. It's just who's successful is rough.
Right.
Exactly.
Tough.
So I want to talk a little bit about the message. You guys, you both mentioned NWA, and you mentioned Greg. I guess in the '80s there was a lot of a lot of hip hop was misogynistic, homophobic, anti-police.
Anti-authority,
I mean, there was all that stuff, and then the reaction to it.
Sure.
So where are we now with it? Is how much of that is still out there, and how much of it is more of an enlightened, positive message?
Yeah, some of it is people misinterpreting the message. And we just had a discussion in this in my class on NWA. They had a message to put across about police brutality, racial profiling. Very legitimate message. The problem is, it doesn't help when you're misogynistic and homophobic at the same time. So some people
So you can be one.
It's how can you be both? So to me, it's kind of conflicting, being like, okay, we want to be anti-authority because the authority profile us. But if you go around talking about all the the women, the way you talk about women, they kind of demote your character a little bit.
But also, I have to stop you when you talk about police profiling. I guess I'm making a distinction between that and between songs that advocated the killing of police.
That's different.
I'm making a distinction
Now,
between legitimate social criticism and kind of a call for violence.
Sure.
No?
And sometimes a call for violence just helps the record sales. And we have to not take it so literally. I took it literally as a kid. My parents would take it literally. A lot of people say this is inappropriate. You would not say calling for violence. But it could be a metaphor. You have to take it with a grain of salt sometimes and saying this is the way they're getting their message because it's more effective sometimes. Right. On the other hand, if they got up there and NWA did a smooth jazz Kenny G style album talking about social injustice, would it be effective?
No.
No. So that's the point. It's kind of like when there's a car crash on the side of the road. You stop and you slow down. You want to look at that car crash. You know it's going to be disgusting and it's something you should not be looking at, but you want to see the people. Why are horror movies so popular? People like this fear of the unknown and these taboo subjects. And that's what NWA is popular. Today, I think a lot of these groups are appropriate. They're not necessarily from Compton. Some of them are. But some of them might be from a suburb of Boulder, Colorado or something, from a very affluent area, making hip hop music. And they're stealing the tropes and the subject matter of gangster rap and just using it as a piece of music, and a product, rather than an expression, a tool of expression.
So how much is gangster rap still a part of the music that sells, and how much of it is something different?
I feel like it's such a small part nowadays.
Oh, it's smaller than it was, say, back in the 80s.
I mean, back in the 80s,
That's what it was. Right?
yeah, it was. And then also, like Greg was saying, there was only so much of hip hop because it started off as just instrumentals, and then once rap got introduced, I guess, into hip hop, then that only branched out so many times. But now you have hip hop that has so many different subgenres of hip hop.
What are some of the subgenres?
You have, I wouldn't know like what you would call them specifically.
Make them up.
But
Make
yeah,
it up. It's
so
trap.
you have like trap. You got like
What's
auto-tune.
trap?
Trap music is a lot like heavier style beats, a lot darker, a lot of 808s and stuff like that.
Hi-hat.
A lot of hi-hats.
A lot of hi-hat.
Lot of hi-hats.
It's kind of becoming the pop, and we were talking about this earlier privately, how these hip hop tropes, like trap trope, is now being appropriated by pop artists. You get these more teeny bopper pop artists that are taking elements of hip hop music, the 808. 808 is a kind of drum machine from the 80s,
Right.
and there's a distinctive tone quality to it. And they're taking that and putting it in pop songs. They're rapping in pop songs, and they're using these hi-hat, this certain kind of hi-hat sound, and it's everywhere. And it's becoming like the new staple of pop music. Even Sesame Street. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like kids are watching Sesame Street, and there's this pop tune teaching them the alphabet, and it's trap music. And it's really interesting.
So that means you'll never use it again now.
I just
It
can't
is
listen to
so
trap music.
it's so cool, right?
I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that
It's like
again.
Elmo's listening
Yeah,
to
and Elmo's listening to
trap
trap.
music.
Elmo was rapping to a trap tune.
I won't do
There
my
you go.
Elmo. So, all right. So again, how much of the message now? You're saying it's a small part, that kind of traditional.
Yeah.
So what are some of the messages? We'll start.
I feel like
start
the
with Mike.
messages vary from, like I said, the different subgenres. So you have like conscious hip hop, you have the trap.
But what are some of them? What the lyrics? I guess is what I'm asking. Maybe
Right.
I didn't ask it right. You know, what are some of the content issues that this music now deals with?
So, like I said, like with the different subgenres, it depends on what you're listening to. So with trap, like it's gonna talk more about like the hood and about what's going on in the streets. Where with conscious hip hop, it's talking more about society and what's going on in the government or what's going on in day-to-day lives. And then you have also still the street hip hop and the gangster hip hop.
And you have the personal hip hop when it's about their lives, and it's very isolated, and it's about that. And then there's the pop hip hop when it's just sex, drugs, rock and roll kind of mentality,
exactly.
partying, just kind of just the things that anyone can. There's no metaphor in some of it, but some of it, like he was saying, the conscious hip hop, there's lots of metaphor, and the socially conscious. You know, when it's political, there's messages about current society.
So who are some of your favorite performers?
So my favorite performance, that's a good question. I'm a little more old school. That
Yeah.
I like the more.
Well, you're a little older.
Yeah, I'm a little older.
Right.
You know, because when I listened to hip hop, I hated it. To be honest,
Yeah.
I hated it in the '90s. So I liked Metallica. I liked
Okay.
Nirvana. I liked the rock. But then I started listening. I liked Dr. Dre. I liked Biggie and Tupac. I like Eminem. I like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Even Kanye as a person. It's open up a bag of worms.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting production. Because what I judge a lot of music by, as a musician with a classical background, is can I do this or not? Like, how do I do this? Like, when I put on a Kanye album, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And the fact that I can't do that, it means he's got talent.
Yeah.
Even though some of the lyric and subject matter is something I don't would want to write myself or listen
Yeah.
to, I'm like, I have a lot of respect for it.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the
do you
old
like?
school people like Jay-Z, Kanye. Even though I wouldn't consider Kanye old school because he's definitely lived through generations of music. But also, I like to dabble in a little bit of everything. The old school hip hop from like Mos Def, Dr. Dre, that kind of stuff, to also the new school hip hop where you have the Kendrick Lamars, the J. Coles, people that are like more socially aware, that are actually have subject matter rather than just talking about the streets or just talking about nonsense.
Got it. What about you mentioned the video? I mentioned the video game that you're working on. Tell us briefly about that.
It's a great art. The reason I got into it, I went full circle. That's what got me into music in the first place. I wanted to write music for games. And I've done a lot of commercial projects when hip hop, like we mentioned, is a culture. One of the games I'm working on is it's a hip hop type game. You're a cartoon cat and it's a beat 'em up kind of old school kind of game, but it takes place on the streets. I can't write music that sounds like it will fit in Mario Brothers or Final Fantasy for that. On the other hand, if I'm doing a medieval type RPG, I'm not going to use hip hop tropes. But yeah, it's in movies, it's in video games, it's in everything. When this hip hop culture and the certain sounds that we associate with hip hop music have to fit appropriately into the game. If there's a game that's taking place in a bad area or just a street, city, urban type game, they need hip hop ideas. So when I send the guys the samples, I'm using the same things I would do if I'm producing a hip hop album.
Wow.
And I feel like sounds also are very underappreciated too, and not only games but also movies too, TV shows.
Yeah, definitely.
So, final question. Quick answer from each of you. We'll start with Greg, go to Mike. What's the future of hip hop?
Oh, it's going to be around forever. I feel like it's hard to make this quick, but it's going to be around. Music doesn't ever go away.
You don't have to be that quick.
Yeah. Music never goes away. The people that try to say rock and roll is dead, tell that to Billy Joel, who's selling out.
Rock and roll is
some
here
people
to
like to
stay.
say, yeah, exactly. But it might. I think it's always going to be. It's a mainstream thing now. I think in a decade from now, something new might emerge that takes over its throne in infiltrating pop music, but it will always be one of the main genres of music. And if I'm teaching this class 50 years from now, I will still be talking about a lot of the same artists, and there'll be new artists definitely coming up because there's still more to grow. It's a new genre. It's only a little older than I am, so it's a relatively new genre.
Right. And Mike?
Definitely agree with Greg. I feel like it's gonna be here for a while. And it's definitely here to stay. But also because hip hop takes from so many different genres, I feel like that's its I guess biggest staple. That's gonna keep it in mainstream attention.
What's the hottest geographic location for creating hip hop right now?
Oh man, I
That's
feel like
tough, yeah.
I feel like it kind of has a couple different locations. You have New York, you have LA, you have Atlanta.
Okay.
Those are probably the three major points.
That's exactly the same as I say. In Chicago, it's just
Yeah,
the
Chicago a
urban
little bit.
centers. I feel like it's going to be, I'm going to try to make a prediction here, Denver. I know, I'm pulling that out there because it's one of the fastest growing cities.
Yeah.
It's becoming more racially diverse.
Yeah.
It's becoming bluer, if you will. And I think that might be the next hot spot. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know.
Florida too. Florida's starting to blow up.
Oh,
There's
Florida's
a lot
big.
of Florida.
Because it's just a fast growing state. All these people, it's not just old people that are moving to
Right.
Florida. People are going there, low cost of living.
Right. It's very dangerous to drive in Florida between the old people and the young
And the new
people.
people.
Yeah.
I
I
never
really
like to drive in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was great. I really enjoyed it. Mike and Greg, thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks to both of our guests. Music always reflects the age we live in. Hip hop is the perfect accompaniment for these jingle jangle times, thanks to Dylan, of political divide and dysfunction. It's a sound and a feel that expresses our times and what we care about. If you would like more information about this or any of our other Carpe Diem broadcasts, you can write to us at the email on your screen, carpediem@mail.montclair.edu, or call us at 973-655-5158. For Carpe Diem, I'm Mark Efron. Stay hip, and thanks for watching.